It's like taking your one machine and making it into 2, 3, 8
2,
machines.
3, 4, right. Which is a great, hold that thought. We're going to talk about that in a little bit for that multiplication.
And I'm just a little upset that I thought the opposite of virtualization was realization. I guess it's not.
Hi, I'm Eric.
I'm Mike.
And welcome to
the Cyber Sitrep, the Cyber
Situation.
That's right, situation
Report.
We're working on that one.
Awesome.
But
we're trying variations, people.
That's right.
So please light us up in the comments. That'll be fun. So
I've heard so far that this is the part they like most, apart from the material, is the fact that
the banter.
We're idiots. Yeah.
Yes, I take that as a compliment. Yes, sir. I am a bona fide idiot.
That's right.
At least we got the memo today. We're both wearing the same uniform.
You'll notice over these episodes, they're like, oh, that was the time they talked to each other.
Yeah, and we even have our hair almost the same. Short.
Yeah, short
beard.
Yeah,
I got the memo, man.
We got the memo.
We're good.
We're twins.
Yeah, today anyway. God help our wives.
So what are we talking about today?
So Mike, there are certain topics that are very near and dear to your heart, some that are near and dear to mine,
That's
and
right.
some that we're like, we could maybe together put
We'll
something
just teach.
together.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of my ones that I've gotten to be a real big fan of over the years,
That's right.
and ever since I was first exposed to it, and the way I've seen it grow, and the way I've used it not only for ourselves but for customers, all the way from system level to enterprise level, I think is awesome. And I just want to go over, hopefully not too in depth today, because you're going to have to pull me back because I love this topic. But we're going to do a virtualization primer today.
Yep.
Right?
And for students out there that I know, I have some of my present former students, this is what we talk about when it comes to how you can set up a lab to attack each other.
Absolutely.
What do you need?
Right.
Virtualization.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, if you don't want to go to jail, right?
Exactly.
But it's, in the military, it's what we call a force multiplier, right?
Exactly.
It's where you can leverage technology you have with your existing, staff count, et cetera, and appear to be a much larger force, right?
That's right.
And it really is that powerful. And if you don't use virtualization yet, hopefully by the end of this Sitrep, you're going to want to look into it. I don't care whether you're one person deep or if you're 1,000 people deep. I've used the use cases anywhere in between on those, and it is just amazing. It's a technology, and you can't live without it now.
No, and if you're a company with a website, you're probably using it and you don't even know it.
Absolutely.
Because trust me, you don't have your own server.
Right. Or, if you're using Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, any kind of office productivity stuff, you're using virtualization.
Exactly.
You just may not be rolling it on your own. You're just the end user, but it's still virtualization, right?
Exactly.
So I just want to say, trying to take into account the younger generation. I'm trying to learn some of the slang.
That's
and
right.
I know I'm going to slaughter this, and you guys can flame me. It's totally cool. See, I'm dating myself, flame.
Flaming.
But I have heard our younger friends would say virtualization is an amazing flex.
It's an amazing flex.
As a compliment, not as, I know, Nate's already rubbing his head going,
we have
our younger gentleman there is
already rolling the eyes.
Well, too late. It's staying in, Nate. I'm going to keep trying until I get it right.
That's right.
So,
what we would call gnarly.
Radical.
Radical.
No, never mind. We're not going to go down that path. Whew, you'll be here all day.
That's bad.
Yeah. So, as you guys know, I'm the stickler for definitions, right?
I was going to ask when the dictionary was coming out.
See, he's got him trained, man. It's great. So, Mike, there's my definition in my head, which obviously doesn't survive as soon as I say it out loud. It's like, that doesn't sound good. So I was looking at multiple sources because I guess I'm schizophrenic or I have ADHD. I don't know, but I need to get more than one source of truth, right?
There you go.
So, as always, I have a couple examples here, but one of the best ones I found, hat tip to IBM, the progenitors, right, of all this stuff.
That's right.
Their definition of virtualization is a technology that enables the creation of virtual environments from a single physical machine, allowing for more efficient use of resources by distributing them across computing environments. Wow. And now, in more layman's terms, using software, virtualization creates an abstraction layer, right, over computing hardware, dividing a single system's resources, components, right, things like your CPU, your memory, your storage, your network, into multiple virtual machines, VMs, right? Also known as guests. We're going to talk about that definition in a second. Each VM, virtual machine, runs as its own operating system and virtual components, and it thinks it's a physical system.
That's right.
It wants to be a real boy, right? It's like a Pinocchio.
Exactly. So it's like taking your one machine and making it into 2, 3, 8
Two,
machines.
3, 4, right. Which is a great, hold that thought. We're going to talk about that in a little bit for that multiplication.
And I'm just a little upset that I thought the opposite of virtualization was realization. I guess it's not.
Oh, too many therapy sessions there, my
Too
friend.
many for me.
That's hilarious. Oh, gosh, I missed you, man. It's been a minute. So, all right, once again, key terms,
That's
right? Makes sense as we go through this. So you'll hear all these different terms thrown around. The primary ones that we want you to know for this SITREP is the term host, right? Host is the physical hardware platform, right?
That's what you actually have.
Yes, that's what you have in your possession.
That's right.
That hosts the virtual environment, right?
That's
Hence
right.
the term host. Guest or virtual machine, right? A guest is a virtual machine instance, which has, like we talked about before, an operating system, processor, memory, network, storage, components in there, right? That run on that host, right?
That's your machine within your machine.
Right. And how
Going
it does
Inception
that
on ourselves
is
there.
we use this thing called a hypervisor,
That's
which we're
right.
going to talk about next, right? The hypervisor is the magic. That's that software, right, that allows multiple virtual machines or guests to be able to run on one physical host.
That's right.
Right?
Yep. That's why I say that Inception. I have a machine inside of a machine inside of a machine.
Right. Great movie. Love that movie. It's awesome. Right. And then finally, one of the other big points we
A
have.
nice point to know of.
One of the best
Yep.
is a thing called snapshotting, right, or snapshots, and that's where we can take an exact record of a guest at a very specific point in time, right? Let me give you a great example of what that would be. Let's say you have a Windows virtual machine.
Yeah, right.
And you've got all these updates you have to put on there, right? Let's say you're going from...
We're hoping it works, right?
Yeah, right. Like you're going from 22H2 to 24H2, right? Monumental, big upgrade, right? So if you were smart, you would back up that system physically, but with a virtual machine, you would take a snapshot and you would say, okay.
Which is a button you click.
A button, and it takes seconds, right? And it'll snapshot that entire virtual machine before you do anything else to it. Then you can put your patches on, your 24H2, et cetera. And if anything goes wrong...
When and if your system dies...
when and if. It's awesome. We're not beating you guys up, Microsoft. We love you. But if anything goes wrong or south, then you can revert. Right? You hit the revert button and that snapshot.
No more uninstall and trying to get back to a good, previously known good.
Exactly.
You literally just reload it at the snapshot
and you're
in time.
right back where you were.
Yep.
No fuss, no muss. And
your
guys,
host
is
untouched.
Exactly.
Nothing happens to your host.
And why we want to emphasize this term so much is it has saved our collective bacon so many times.
Yep.
That I hate to do things physically now first. I always want to use virtualization first because I get so used to having that snapshot.
That's right.
That it makes you fearless. You can go out and you can do these things. You can do these wild experiments. You can do these.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about, using it as a, exploitation range, et cetera, right? You can do all this stuff and then boop, hit the rewind button, snapshot, revert, and you're back to a pristine state. Right?
And if you are a company out there and you have some specific software you're running on your host, that's the thing that usually the updates mess with, right? It's not necessarily that Microsoft's patch doesn't work on Microsoft. Right. They've tested it.
Exactly.
But it might not work with your XYZ software that you need to run your company.
Right.
Build yourself that exact duplicate, replica virtual machine.
And test it.
Test it, and then if it works,
which
load
stay
it onto
tuned
the
for
host.
yet another SITREP to come soon about test ranges, where we're going to talk about this, right?
I was like, oops, I lost my software.
That would be bad, right? All right, so hypervisor, we're going to talk about next. We talked about that's the magic that makes this happen, that allows us to do this, translation of hardware to virtual components, right? To make all these systems think they're the only game in town, but yet they're running all at the same time, right?
Yes, because your guests don't know their guests.
They don't. Well, they don't. Yeah, they don't know. But there's some hacking stuff there, right, that we could do to see if it's a VM, et cetera. But the OS itself thinks it's a real boy. It really thinks it's a human being and not a puppet, right?
That's right.
All right. So I don't want to invoke flames here, but I like to be as accurate as I can given my limited intelligence, right? And I want to talk about the types of hypervisors. So we have two. There's type 1 and there's type 2. And I know
it's not like SEAL Team 6. They didn't go 1 to 6 and just pretending there was 2, 3, 4, 5.
Not to my knowledge, no. We'd have to ask IBM, right?
That's right.
Were one of the first ones that came out with that term. But I don't want to start any flames here, but realize there's some disagreement in the community between the big brands we're going to talk about here in a little bit, whether they're truly Type 1 or if they're Type 2.
Right.
So the reason why this is important is a Type 1 installs on bare metal, meaning that it talks directly to the hardware. There's no operating system in between. It is its own basic operating system, right? It is what runs the hardware, right? And that's as quick as you're going to get. That's as low in the stack as you're going to get. So, and once again, these are general observations. Please don't flame me on this. I know there's exceptions to every rule, but in general, right?
But feel free to comment.
Please do. No, I'd love to have the conversation, but realize I'm the messenger, right? Don't shoot me down in cold blood for this. But generally speaking, Type 1 hypervisors are the fastest of the two, right? Because they have less stuff in the way and the intermediate layer there. They're directly on top of the hardware, so they're going to be the fastest. Because of that, they're also going to be the most expensive. Right, because they're custom tuned to everything else. They're also going to be the least portable. Right, meaning that because it is hardware dependent, you're going to have dependencies there you may have to look into, which we'll get into in a minute. Don't want to get too far ahead. They also can be the most complex to configure and set up, because sometimes there is a virtualization that is for dummies. It's easy, and then there's some that require PhDs to really extract the performance out of it.
I like the for dummies versions myself personally.
Totally love it. Right. And then finally, the Type 1 generally has a more default security posture, right? Because there's less threat surface area there to be exploited, as opposed to a Type 2, right, which we'll get to next. A Type 2 is what we also call a hosted hypervisor. That's right. Meaning that software runs as an application on a pre-existing operating system, right? So let's think if you have a Linux system. Well, I'm going to get beat up. See, I'm doing it already.
You're jumping right into the fire.
Let's say you're running Windows.
There you go. That's safer.
And you're using a virtualization product. Let's just say VirtualBox. We're going to talk about them in a second. That is a Type 2 hypervisor. It is a software application.
From Oracle.
You install it. That's open source. Well, it's free. I don't know if it's open source anymore.
No, it is totally open source, but it's from Oracle.
It is great product. Runs as an application. Still runs that operating system. That guest that you've installed. The guest still thinks it's a real boy. It's still a real system, right? And you move on. Now, obviously, because there's that OS in the intermediate layer there, Type 2 by definition is going to be somewhat slower than Type 1. Now, I say that, and back in the good old days, that really used to matter, Mike. But, it's been a long time since virtualization's been out, and even Type 2 are smoking fast now.
Yeah, I was going to say, we all have Pentiums with, tons of RAM, and, because we're old. We're back from the old day when we had 286s.
The mullet wig. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. But to Mike's point, Moore's Law, processors, doubling every 18 months in performance, et cetera. It's the same thing with virtualization. So even though it's Type 2, it's still going to be really snappy by today's standards, and you probably won't even notice the performance hit, right? Unless you're overloading the system, right?
I will say, though, that one of the questions that was taught in the class was, do you get more RAM with a virtualization? And the answer was no. You only have the RAM you have physically.
Yeah, that would be quite a coup.
That would be a virtualization like super coup if you're like, I have 8 gigs of RAM, but with my VirtualBox I have 24.
16, yeah. Wow, we could make a lot of money on that. So no, people, no. You're at the limit of your hardware, right? But once again, general observation, it's not as fast as a Type 1, right? But it is more affordable, ranging from free, like we just talked about. We're going to talk about that more in just a second when we talk about common platforms.
That's right.
Also with that, it's also more portable because it's Type 2, so it's more of an application. So any well-supported operating system, all 3 of them, right, that we know of, all the Linux variants, Windows, Mac OS, there's Type 2 hypervisors out there available, right? And we'll talk in a little bit about portability. If you want portability, there are some vendors that go across all platforms, some that are specific to others. We'll get into that. Now, also less complex, right? Because it's more of an application. It just runs right out of the box. Now, is the complexity there? Sure. Can you get under there and turn wrenches and do all this exotic stuff? Absolutely. But the default case is easy.
And you can download the virtual, like with VirtualBox. They have pre-built virtual machines. So you just say, load this file. Now I'm running Linux.
Right. And we're going to talk about its competitor here in just a second, but portability is really big for me, right? And we'll get into that toward the end when we talk about challenges, right? And then also decreased security, right? Not quite as secure, because guess what? Now you got the operating system, you got any other applications that may be on there running independent of the hypervisor. So it's just common sense, right? Your threat surface area is going to be expanded.
There's more configuration as well, so you can maybe allow a little connection you didn't think you were allowing. And,
absolutely. Right. But once again, don't let that, the pool is warm. Come on in, right?
That's right.
We're going to convince you need to do this. Okay. So speaking of that, let's get into the cases for virtualization, or as we say, pros. Right?
Why would I want to do this?
Well, why? Right. Like, so, and once again, these aren't in particular order. However, the first couple to me are more important. Okay. And the first one, and once again, I know there may be some flames out there, but if implemented properly and maintained properly, it creates a safe sandbox, right?
A playground,
right? Guest isolation.
That's right.
Isolating those guests from each other and from your host system and for the rest of your network. So that way you can play, right?
Exactly.
You can do development. You can do experimentation. You can do detonation if you have malicious code, right, that comes into your environment. And you're like, well, what does this do? Think reverse engineering, right? People that, decompile this stuff, look at it, figure out how it works, and then patch it, right? They're doing that in a virtualized environment, right? That's safe.
Because if you destroy it, what do we have to do?
Rebuild it.
Or go back to our saved spot.
Yeah. Go back to your snapshot, right? Absolutely. Yeah.
I blew it up. And I just snapshot right back.
Yeah, and we can also use it for evaluation purposes as well, right? Maybe you don't want to, maybe you don't want to test things in production. We're going to talk about that in another Sitrep, I promise. Yeah. And the short answer is no. You never ever test in production.
No,
you never do that.
You want to have a nice safe space.
Right. Okay. Also, big case here is it maximizes your available hardware resources and efficiency, right? Because here's the thing, and this is where you see a light bulb go on, is they'll say, well, Eric, I've got this laptop that's running Windows. How am I going to be able to support another host or guest on that, another virtual machine? Because isn't Windows using everything that's on that system? Doesn't it have everything maxed out? It's using all that memory.
Only if you have all the tabs open like I do.
Right. So he's an edge case, obviously. That was good. So there's a lot of idle time, right? There's a lot of idle processor time. Memory isn't used. Well, can be, right? The OSs have gotten better now as they've gotten more modern.
And Windows has learned to share.
It has very well played. Same thing with storage. Maybe you have a terabyte hard drive, but the operating system itself only takes 100 gig.
Yep.
So you've got 90% of that drive open and free. So why not? Right. Why not create maybe a web server that you want to play with, right? Or a database server, or insert here. You want to learn Linux, right? You want to learn how to code in Linux or be able to move around the command line. You can do that with the virtual machine, all in a safe sandbox. And then if you want
to learn how to, like you were saying, with the server. You don't have a server. You don't have a physical server yet.
Exactly.
But you want to learn it a little bit before you go and buy one.
Commit to all that money.
You can just throw on a virtual server on top of your little old laptop and run my Windows Server.
Which what he's talking about is reducing your hardware cost, right? You don't have to make that big upfront investment. You can get by very, very efficiently, affordably, and then from there, once you've proven the principle, then you can scale and go out and buy that big $10,000 server, et cetera, right? Also reduces energy consumption, unless you're, crypto mining or doing whatever else, right? Even running that system at 100%, it's one system you're running, and if you're running 4 systems on that virtually, then you're getting a 4-to-1 ratio there, right? And you may even be able to go more depending on what kind of hardware you have, right?
It again goes back to what does your host have?
Exactly. How beefy is your host, right? But I guarantee you out there, any system you buy today, you'll be able to at least run one virtual machine in addition to, I guarantee you, I don't care what platform it is, I'm just going to be bold and say that, that you'll be able to run at least one virtual machine.
Absolutely.
It may not be the fastest, and it may be smoking fast, right, if you've got a high-spec system. But you can run at least one, and sometimes running even 2, 3, 4. Depends, once again, how beefy your host is, right?
Every time you say beefy, I think of us.
Right, exactly. Well, we have slightly different definitions of that. But yes, ends in Y.
True.
Okay. Going along with that thread, we have concurrent use of multiple operating systems from the same platform.
That's right.
Right, which is nice. So if doing Mac OS is a little more tricky, but if you want to, evaluate Mac OS, there's ways to do that. Linux is my big case, right? There's different flavors of Linux. And for our customers, we have two big flavors that we play with, Ubuntu and or Red Hat derived distributions, and they are different, right? There's some similarities, but there are some significant differences. And so by having those in a virtual environment, we're able to pre-test that stuff on our end so that we look like geniuses when we show up on site. And it's because we bled in private, right?
That's right.
And patched ourselves up, right?
Exactly.
And so that's a great case there,
and,
right?
And Linux doesn't take a lot of resources to run.
It's very nice.
So there's no need to dedicate a physical device for something that you can just throw on top of your Windows box.
That you may use once in a while. I'll give you another example of that we use ours for, right, is we support some customers that have systems behind air-gapped environment, right? Meaning they can't go out to the internet because their data is sensitive, et cetera, right?
That's right.
So we still need to update those systems, right? We need to patch them. We need to put updates on there. So how we do that is through virtualization. We will use a mirror system that looks like our customer system but is virtual, use that to download what we need, and then put that onto media and take it into that environment, and that system's happy.
Read-only.
Read-only. Of course, read-only, yes. Yes. He's trying to nail me on classified stuff here, guys. It's fun. It's fun stuff. But absolutely, it'd be read-only. Same thing with patches, right? You can download, patch repositories, et cetera, using that virtual instance. It's built exactly the same. So that way, the packages the customer has versus what you have are the same. So everything is going to work. So you can test it in that virtual environment, throw it onto that read-only drive, take it in, get them patched up and running, and you keep everybody happy, right? Excellent use case. We do that monthly for our things, so we use it all the time.
Hey, remember to like and follow us here on our podcast and YouTube channel. And we are coming to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast Studio at the Next Us, which is a professional cooperative environment for small businesses here in downtown Colorado Springs. You should check them out.
Come check it out.